Now, after the shocking win of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York's 14th district and knocking off Joe Crowley, who was the number 4 Democrat in the House, the Democratic establishment is starting to feel a little bit of pressure. According to the New York Times, a shock in the Capitol over Mr. Crowley's New York primary loss to a 28-year-old first-time candidate, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, gave way to calculation. House Democrats began floating challengers to Representative Nancy Pelosi. Oh, well, that's interesting. So, look, this isn't the first time they've talked about ousting Nancy Pelosi. So, we've heard this talk before. There's actually an unsuccessful challenge to Nancy Pelosi, and her position is pretty much secure at this point. However, now that Cortez has won, Ocasio-Cortez, that is going to change, possibly. Now, the current leadership slate reacted defensively to the threat of a purge, while a handful of other lawmakers had braced from their own primary challenges from the left. Well, that's what I like to hear. I mean, could you imagine a purge of centrist Democratic leadership? I can. And you know what? It sounds awesome. I love it. Now, first up, as I said, Nancy Pelosi. Now, for her part, she dismissed questions about the growing appetite in her ranks for new leaders and the demand from the party base for more liberal representation. Of course she did. Liberal? No, we're not liberal. We're capitalists here. In fact, you're going to hear from that a little bit later as well. But first she says, well, I'm female. I'm progressive. What's your problem? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Wait, what's the 2? Yes, you're female. That seems to be obvious. But progressive? What? Nancy Pelosi a progressive on what planet? No, that's 1 out of 3. She is against Medicare for all. She's against free college. Oh, but no, I'm so progressive. So progressive. Now, when asked, and she's so progressive that when asked by CBS News' Nancy Cortez if democratic socialism is ascendant in the Democratic Party, here's what Pelosi said. No. No, they're not. It's ascendant in that district, perhaps. Oh, it's just a weird district, so white. One of the famous excuses. But I don't accept any characterization of our party presented by the Republicans. So let me reject that right now. Well, now, wait a minute. Characterization of the party represented by Republicans. Well, she's, of course, referring to the longtime accusation, right, lobbed by Republicans that, oh my God, Obama and Pelosi, they're socialists. They're so left-wing. It's hilarious and really sad to see the reaction from Pelosi to say, no, I'm not left at all. No, I'm a progressive, but socialism, no, too far. We're capitalists. I don't know, if you're a socialist and you believe in socialist values or democratic socialism or social democracy, wouldn't you own that? Shouldn't you own that? But of course, they're so afraid of that characterization from the right. So they have to say, no, socialism not ascendant. Weird district, too white. That's not at all true. That district is Queens and the Bronx. Somebody who is white, demographically speaking, Joe Crowley was not representative of that district. And obviously not representative of the values of the people in that district. That's why he lost the primary. So Pelosi, of course, is like, no, we cannot be characterized by the right wing. Right wing's going to call you socialist. In fact, they already do. They already call you socialist. They already called Obama a socialist. Far left Obama. And he did the same thing. Well, these centrist corporate Democrats, they're so scared of being called left wing. It is really sad. But now, while the Democratic politicians are afraid of being called socialists, there's a lot of people in the Democratic Party who are self-avowed. 6 in 10 Democratic primary voters back in 2016, this is a poll when Bernie Sanders was starting to get around, said that socialism has a positive impact on society. That's in 6 in 10 Democratic primary voters. Now, according to this right-leaning issue advocacy group American Action Network poll provided to Politico, Democratic voters in every age group, gender, and race viewed socialism favorably. Now, a poll out this May found that 46% of Americans approve of a federal job guarantee. Well, it seems to be very socialist. Medicare for All has a 63% support among Americans as a whole, and over 75% support among Democratic voters. It appears that the Democratic voters and the Democratic base is far more socialist than Nancy Pelosi. But no, we're capitalists. That's what we are. Socialism is not ascendant in the Democratic Party. No, not at all. We don't believe in this socialized medicine or anything like that, or a federal jobs guarantee. No. Well, you know what that shows? Pelosi is super out of touch with the Democratic base. She is, however, perfect for the Steve Schmitz of the world. Former Republicans that just didn't like it, how crass Donald Trump was. Oh, he's so mean to people. He's such a bad guy. I'm going to leave the Republican Party and become Democrat. Except that you don't believe in progressive values at all. Sorry, Steve, there is no room for you here in the Democratic Party. Get the fuck out. Am I clear? Now, look, not only that, but I mentioned replacements to Pelosi. Don't get too excited, right? Rank-and-file House Democrats made clear in dozens of interviews that whether the party takes back the majority or not in November, there would be a push to depose Ms. Pelosi. Representative Emanuel Cleaver said, quote, "There will be an insurgency. I just don't know who's leading it. But I can assure you that I'm as certain of that as I am today is Wednesday." Interesting. Now, who would lead that insurgency? Nobody knows. Okay. In fact, that actually helps make Pelosi feel a little bit better. However, they said that it also raised the threat of the unknown. For over a year, she has known that Mr. Crowley, or Representative Steny Hoyer, her 79-year-old second-in-command and longtime rival, would be her most obvious challengers. Both are white men with roots in the more centrist wing of the party. Now, she could face a race from a colleague who was neither white, nor male, nor moderate, and that could make it easier for her diversity-minded colleagues to latch on. So if she gets challenged by somebody who is progressive and fits some of those diversity check marks, watch out. Watch out indeed. Now look, also, she could end up being challenged by somebody who also fits the Democratic check marks, but is still part of the establishment. So I want to put out that warning as well. What we need actual progressive challengers that are willing to take her on and can win. And that is the establishment's biggest fear. Now, they can also use that to replace Pelosi with somebody who's, as I said before, hits the demographic check marks, but is not progressive, and say, look at that, we've got a new fresh face in the Democratic Party. Look how progressive we are, but push the same policies. So again, I just want to warn you about those guys. Now, as far as the policies, that is the most important thing. So any challenger, you want to watch what they actually believe in and where the money comes from. But here's another fun quote here that explains how Crowley's loss is being felt in the establishment. He said, this is Representative Rick Larson, Democrat of Washington. He said, "This is like throwing a hand grenade in a fish pond and seeing what comes up." Mr. Crowley's loss, he added, is making a lot of people accelerate their thinking on the leadership races. Now, as the vacuum created by Mr. Crowley's exit only seemed to deepen the yearning for Ms. Pelosi, Mr. Hoyer, and Mr. Clyburn to clear the path for a new generation of leaders. Now, Clyburn was asked about this, and he was not happy about that. He said that Mr. Clyburn grew testy and admonished a reporter who asked whether he, Ms. Pelosi, and Mr. Hoyer could hold on for life. Quote, "I hope you recognize how late in life I got here. and other people who look like me. Now, Clyburn, of course, is the highest-ranking African-American in Congress. But if he gets replaced by somebody who's progressive and it's also a minority, well, then that eliminates your advantage of being the highest-ranked African-American in Congress. And he says, finally, quote, "I have a set of experiences, and I'm not going to take any lecture from you." Nobody cares about your experience. All people care about is if you represent us. So, I don't know if Clyburn does. I don't know if he's all that progressive. He might be part of the centrist wing. If so, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in your experience. And I'm sorry. But you've got to either go left or go home. Now, Pelosi, same thing for her. She is out of touch. She needs to go home. And so do the rest of the centrist Democrats. And on that, look, I got to tell you, Joe Crowley, he's not the first to fall. And he definitely will not be the last. As far as the Democratic Party goes, that is an empty ship. As Cenk Uygur says, it's a ghost ship. And we're the pirate ship. So, and we're going to take over. So, hey, if you're in the establishment, tell your establishment friends that we're not only coming for them, we're coming for you. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.